Alright, guys, today I'm gonna react on gaming is better for you than scrolling. See, look, I'm not a gamer though. I'm a scroller, professional scroller, because you know what I'm saying. I scroll all day. It's kind of fun, and you know what I'm saying. It's kind of good. So basically, scrolling is better than gaming, as my POV. But after looking at this shit, this video, we can just maybe my perspective changes, or maybe my POV changes towards gaming. So maybe I can start gaming. You know what I'm saying? All right.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm sorry if I look a little bit tired. I have just been tired all day. I wanted to make a video kind of expressing my thoughts on just how I think video games are much more fulfilling, educational,
Educational? Really?
honestly just healthy for your brain when you compare it to other forms of modern entertainment like social media. Now, I'm not an expert on, the human brain or like psychology or anything, but in my experience, actually, I'm not going to say in my experience because it's more so in our generation's experience as a whole. Do you guys ever get free time, whether you just got off of work or something else, and you say to yourself, I'm ready to commit time to a video game? However, when you actually have that time, it feels so much easier to just go to your phone and scroll on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It feels so much easier to just mindlessly scroll on these platforms than to actually sink time and like commit to, a single player experience like Elden Ring, for example. It's just something that people don't really talk about though, because, for the past couple of generations of gamers, our parents have been reinforcing this insane belief that video games are like, the cliche is always that they're rotting our brains, but in general, that they're just like a bad habit. But honestly, nowadays, I can't really speak for back then, but nowadays, I find playing single player commitment type games one of the healthiest hobbies, especially for our generation that, struggles with, pornography, drugs, and overall other addictions that are less like, not really considered addictions, but definitely are addictions, like music addiction and social media addiction. Like, our generation struggles with all that stuff. Like, basically every guy I know has at least one of those things. But if you really have like a huge hobby for playing through like single player commitment games, what's really the flaws with that? In fact, I would honestly argue that having a deep fascination with gaming and playing through games as a hobby has way more upsides than downsides compared to a lot of other things that our generation does that I mentioned. For example, I myself, since, gaming is so fulfilling to me, I have zero interest in drugs, alcohol, stuff like that. Hookup culture, no interest in that. All of these things I mentioned are much more harmful to your physical and mental state compared to gaming. Yet gaming is the only one of those things that are considered nerdy. You're a nerd if you like that stuff. Obviously there's still like warnings about alcoholism and drug addiction in the media. It's just, you're not like a nerd or a geek if you do that stuff. But also, why does it feel so difficult to actually commit time to a game, even if we, have the time to do so? As for myself, I am a full-time content creator on my main YouTube channel, so I am very privileged to have a lot of free time. And so I do get to play through a lot of video games on the daily, but it still definitely does feel like work sometimes. I could go like boot up a game for the first time on my PlayStation 2 and kind of like start to get into it, but it's just like I'm starting a commitment that is going to, it's going to be like in the back of my mind until I complete it. Whereas with social media, there's no like investment in it. You can just go on your phone, scroll for like 30 minutes, and it's not something you're obligated to really do. However, here's the thing. The idea of there being no obligation is ironically what obligates you to keep doing it. Because our generation, and surely the next generation, will be basically trained to only want the most easily obtainable gratification and like validation and just dopamine without actually like putting anything into it. And look, this video is mostly about video games, but honestly, I have found that single player games feel a lot like reading books. Because if you really think about it, the time commitment from books compared to like single player RPG type games, it's pretty similar. And I think older generations have to stop this, stigma of like single player games and, you know, just games in general as being like super unhealthy compared to other forms of media that are more like normalized in like the rest of like culture across all generations. Single player games are almost as good for you as books in my personal, you know, experience. I know that's about them that I think can kind of blur the lines between kind of just dystopian, how they just try to keep you addicted. So that is personally why I prefer to mostly talk about single player games, because I think they just are way easier to maintain a healthy habit of. But again, if you play like a multiplayer game, like especially like competitively, that can still be very healthy, especially compared to social media. Anyway, so I think that video games and books are just the absolute best forms of fiction. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, you know, bring up some extra points. You know, I'm making really like just complete brain rot where, you know, every piece of them feels like it's just trying to like grab your attention compared to just like scrolling on social media over and over. And also a lot of multiplayer games try to over and over. And also a lot of multiplayer games try just because there's not really an end, and then I feel like I'm kind of just having the same experience over and over. And also a lot of multiplayer games try to exploit you with battle passes and stuff, and just meant to just keep you hooked on the game. So because multiplayer games are kind of designed to be played endlessly, there's a lot of things about them that I think can kind of blur the lines between kind of just dystopian, how they just try to keep you addicted. So that is personally why I prefer, because if I wanted you guys to just affirm all of my perspectives, then I'd just be talking into the void for just validation for no reason. So please let me know what you think. Let me know if you have personally just found it really hard to commit to a game compared to just like scrolling on social media. My advice to you is just push through it, commit to fiction that's long-term, like books and games. Trust me, it is worth it. It's not easy, but it is worth it. It's way more fulfilling to me. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next upload.
So the conclusion is single player game is better than scrolling. Alright, that's it. So yeah, so I choose the game from now, you know what I'm saying? So bye.